Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN Weekly for Saturday, October 1st, 2020. Well, it's been another great week of shows with great topics and, of course, great guests. We kicked off the week with a look at how participants aren't getting what they need from their retirement plans, website, or apps. Let's take a look.
You know, Jeff, we've definitely seen some deterioration there versus when we did this study last year, right? So we have at JD Power, we've developed this segmentation for financial health and wellness. And when we asked retirement plan participants around this time last year about their financial health and wellness overall, 60% of them qualified as what we call financially healthy. This year, that number was down to about 47%. So a pretty significant deterioration. And correspondingly, we've seen an increase in the least healthy category, which we call financially vulnerable. So, obviously, given what's going on in stock markets and with interest rates and inflation, overall, we see the health of retirement plan participants is not as good as it was, a year ago. Yeah, I think it's just become more and more important, right? We've seen obviously levels of engagement with digital channels, especially mobile apps, increasing for consumers in general. And particularly we see that as we look at investors in more challenging circumstances. They really are looking to their retirement plan provider to provide them with useful information, tools, and guidance to help them not only plan for retirement, but to deal with other aspects of their financial lives. And we know that plan providers are aware of this, right? Many of them are very focused on what they sometimes call financial wellness or health, which recognizes that, planning for retirement is never done in isolation. It's part of a larger financial picture that these plan participants are dealing with. While I would agree with you that lots of these providers do have great resources and tools and content, oftentimes participants don't know about it, right? They don't know it's there. There's not a high level of awareness. Sometimes it may be difficult to find, or people may not even engage with these resources because they're just not aware of what's out there. So I think, developing great content and tools is important, but also, one of the things that we found in the research is that at least most participants don't feel like their providers are providing proactive information and guidance, right, on what they need to do. And so for some folks that may not be aware of these resources, they just don't even know where to start. I think it's got to be done in a personalized way, right? So that it's really relevant to a particular person's life stage and ideally their level of financial wellness and sophistication, right? So somebody who is 30 years old, who is many decades away from retirement, who's just starting out, the messaging to those folks and what they need to be thinking about is very different, right, than somebody who is a couple of years away from retirement or maybe already in retirement and is drawing down, is kind of transitioned from accumulation to decumulation and is really drawing on plan assets to help fund their retirement. So absolutely, I think education is huge. And it's really got to be done in a way that is personalized to the individual participant, their life stage, and their needs.
Next up, we discussed renovating your home on a budget. Let's take a look.
With mortgage rates starting to rise, people are getting anxious about finding a home. There's still low inventory. We've seen low inventory over the past few years, which has caused prices to go up. And as of this month, we're starting to see a softening of the market. And, we're in 35 markets now, so it does vary across the country. And it also depends on single family home versus condo. But overall, we're seeing our first decline in home prices in quite some time. And from Curbio's point of view, being a company that goes in and helps homeowners and realtors update homes before selling, it's sort of a tailwind for Curbio, because as the market gets more of a buyer's market, and buyers, 75% of them wanting a turnkey home that is updated and move-in ready, and they're willing to pay more for it. That sort of puts homeowners in this position. If they're selling their home and they want to get top dollar and sell fast in this changing market, then they have to update. So demand is really starting to pick up for us, and it's a pretty exciting time. The kitchen is absolutely the heart of the home and the biggest selling point. People want an updated kitchen. That doesn't necessarily mean it has to have brand new cabinetry, brand new everything. There's a lot of cases where you can paint the cabinets, add new hardware and lighting, and painting the interior and refinishing the floors makes it look brand sparkling new. But we've seen in the 1,500 projects we've done that kitchens absolutely generate the highest return on investment and increase in sale price. No, you don't need the latest and greatest technology. What buyers are looking for and what's going to help a home sell for more is just that clean, updated look. So if your appliances are, a white fridge from the 90s, then yes, you're going to want to update to stainless steel, or it can be white, but a newer model. But what we don't necessarily see is, high-end appliances like Viking or Wolf. They don't necessarily help your home sell for more unless you're in an upmarket where that type of finish is expected. And to the supply chain, you're absolutely right. Like for a while, I think I was waiting on a dishwasher for like 6 months, and this was when we were all on lockdown. I was doing hand washing of dishes for that long. But the thing that we've seen at Curbio is because we have suppliers across the nation where we pre-purchase all of our appliances and have relationships with national companies. We've been really lucky to not have the same delays as other companies, but across the market now, just like you're hearing with anything, we're starting to see shorter lead times. So no fear if you're updating your kitchen and waiting for appliances, it will not be taking as long as it did. Bathrooms, the reason being, they're one of those rooms that can easily be dated, and like it's very easy to tell when the bathroom was done, just trends come and go. And so Curbio does a lot of bathrooms to help make them timeless, subway tile, fresh, everything is just kind of neutral, and that generates a really high ROI as well. We've been seeing for kitchens and baths about a 214% return on investment across our markets as an average. So definitely the kitchens and baths. As our labor sourcing and material sourcing team looks to build relationships with vendors, sustainability is top of mind for us, and from fixtures in the bathroom to flooring and things like that.
Well, we're halfway through the best segments for the week. When we come back, the other half. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN Weekly. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. Next up, we discussed making cybersecurity a priority for businesses. Let's take a look.
Cybersecurity is an issue that affects any and every organization, irrespective of your size. As long as you're sort of connected to the internet, these vulnerabilities are floating around networks and you can be a target. The reason I say that is that you don't necessarily need to be a target in today's interconnected world to really be facing the consequences. You know, a lot of targets are essentially collateral damage as well. And therefore, you know, I think our best chance is to beef up our defenses to the extent possible to stay ahead of this threat. So I think there are a lot of things that can be done. And of course, you know, I think a lot of these things can be budget intensive, but they don't necessarily need to be. For example, instilling a culture of cybersecurity is something that you can do with training and awareness, which need not be very intensive when it comes to costs. You can probably get technology solutions like firewalls or antivirus that are effective at a minimum level too. And more importantly, there is also the possibility of, you know, using simple things, for example, good password hygiene, looking at things such as multi-factor authentication, you know, that can go a big way. Oftentimes we find that, you know, passwords that are not used very judiciously lead to identity theft of sorts, or provide a way for attackers to find an entry point into the organization's network. So if we just focus a bit on the basics, we can really have a sea change there. I'd also like to emphasize that the business leaders play a pivotal role. If you make cybersecurity a strategic business decision, right? I think a lot depends on that. So, for example, before you're buying that new solution, you know, I think that CRM software, are you really thinking about, you know, how cyber secure is this particular product, right? So I think some of these decisions need to be hardwired into the organization's DNA, that think about security of products and solutions that you're bringing into your environment. And more importantly, whenever you make a business decision, think about, you know, whether cybersecurity, how cybersecurity is being addressed within that particular business decision per se. So, you know, I'm probably going to be a bit pessimistic over here and then say that there is no such thing as prevention, you know, because in order to defend an organization, the good guys, or essentially the organization, needs to be on point 100% of the time, whereas an attacker needs only that one instance to be able to make it into the organization, right? So there is no such thing as 100% cyber protection in today's world, in my view. Having said that, I think focusing on some of the elements of cyber resilience and how do we make sure that we are preparing for cyber attacks in a way that, you know, we are mapping out the threats. We are looking at what are the assets that are most critical to our business that need to be secured the most. So it's really like a business problem, right? What are the things that you hold most dearly? They need to be the ones that have the highest degree of protection. And then, you know, you go with that. Similarly, if there were to be an event, you know, how do we recover from that? I'm just going to take an example from my previous background. And I used to navigate ships for the longest time, right? So for almost about 10 years, I did that. So as a navigating officer on board ships, we used to have what they call an electronic chart display system. So these were like the new machines, electronic charts that came into the mix. But we used to have a paper folio of charts as well, right? And as a navigating officer, I was responsible for maintaining both. So while for the most part, we would be referring to our navigation on the electronic display, we were still mapping our position on paper charts. And, I mean, in the event that the electronic version was to fail, we have a fail-safe version in the paper chart format, right? So what I'm trying to get at with that is that, in systems and organizations, irrespective of size, there is this possibility to build in resilience by design.
And finally, we discussed key takeaways from Climate Week 2022 in New York City. Let's take a look.
This is an issue that's going to take trillions of dollars of investment, and there's a massive opportunity there. Yet we also are continuing to pour hundreds of billions of dollars into the oil and gas industry, right? And this is one of the, if not the biggest challenge around climate is how do we fundamentally transform our economy away from fossil fuels, right? We have been talking about, I've been doing this since the mid 2000s, and the story remains the same. The world came together in Paris in 2015 and came up with the Paris Agreement. You have countries that are like the U.S. setting a 50 to 52% goal by 2030. Yet global fossil fuel use is higher now than it was when Paris was signed. And so we need to shift investment away from fossil fuels, right? And obviously that's easier said than done. Public pension funds, which have like $4 trillion under investment, can be part of that solution. Individual banks certainly can. And individuals, role is, I think, as much in terms of looking at where they're investing to making those behavioral shifts, right? Because we can't rely only on central banks, only on financial institutions to make this change, but we all have to be part of this change, right? The economy runs on supply and demand. The supply side is where investment comes in, and the demand side is where individuals and companies with fleets, et cetera, come in. So it has to be from top down and from the bottom up. Over the last 15, 20 years, we've seen a lot of advancements, right? So we've had the Carbon Disclosure Project, now CDP, because it covers much more forests, water, and some other things, where companies have been disclosing their emissions and their plans for transformation for years. That has evolved. We now have the task force on climate-related financial disclosures, another one on disclosing impacts on nature. So there's a proliferation of platforms for transparency. And now, of course, the SEC has its draft regulations, which went out for comment earlier this year, and we're expecting them to finalize those in the months ahead, and companies will have to have mandated disclosure, and that will add another layer of transparency. On the financial regulation initiative side with WWF and other organizations, we also will be launching, have launched this website. It's called the SUSReg tool, Sustainable Regulations. And that will be a place where we will be tracking what central banks and other financial institutions are doing. And that's a way, where the NGO community holds the corporate community and governments responsible. Well, education is at the bottom of so much, right, around this issue. But we also know that education is not a panacea, right? This doesn't seem to be an issue where there's an information gap. And, that, or the when there is an information gap, that more information solves the problem. And so, one of the things is you need the option, and a lot of plans don't even have that option, right? But I think one of the fundamental problems is having a sustainable option in your 401k isn't going to get us there, right? We have to transform the entire system, and we have to do it rapidly. If we just keep divesting, assets out of companies or out of that, divestment goes somewhere. It's not like we're eradicating it from the system, right? So, you could end up with one institution that holds all of the, fossil fuel assets. And if they're still there, we haven't solved anything. So it's not just creating one option, but it's fundamentally transforming all of the options so that they are sustainable.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN Weekly. Have a topic of interest, somebody you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news in lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, entertainment, so much more, and all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content? Well, visit our website and, of course, our streaming partners. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN Sunday. I'll be joined by members of the media, academia, financial services, and government as we analyze all the news and events for the week. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.